Hey marketers, Bren Hamill here in a new video that I think is going to be fantastic. I really enjoyed putting this on together. It's taken about 6 weeks. And what I'm talking to you about today is how to craft really powerful and persuasive video ads that you can use on YouTube or Facebook. So over the past 6 weeks, I've been collecting tons of YouTube ads and Facebook ads and analyzing them, studying them, writing out their scripts and trying to decipher what techniques, what psychological ninja tactics are they using in order to be able to persuade their prospects and create ads that are highly scalable, allowing them to, grow their business in order of new prospects and email opt-ins and also sales. So what I'm going to share with you is all the findings that I've been able to uncover. On top of that, what I've done also is not only taken all the knowledge that I've uncovered analyzing the best performing ads with millions and hundreds of millions of views on YouTube and Facebook, but I've also merged in all the information and learnings that I've uncovered and tested myself within my various businesses and also clients. So I really do think it's going to be a really powerful video, and I'm going to share pretty much everything that I've uncovered in this one training video tutorial. On top of that, if you scroll down to the YouTube description section below, I've put in access to a spreadsheet where you can watch these video ads and you can watch them as many times as you want. There's no email opt-in or any kind of snaky, hawky-balky stuff like that. And throughout this tutorial, I'm actually going to be referencing these video ads and showing you the snippets of when they use these psychological persuasion tactics in their videos. So not only can you theoretically understand the persuasion principle, but also see it in a live example that has worked wonderfally well. And just one other thing is that if you want access to this slideshow for a reference point or to help you craft your own scripts once you've watched the video, that's also in the YouTube description section below. So without any further communication or talking or waffling, let's just jump straight in and get stuck into today's tutorial. Okay, so here we are. Now, before we get started, I want to share you one really quick secret that will help you really punch up the level of your video ads no matter what you do, and that is to smash the subscribe button or the like button of this video. It really does help within the YouTube rankings and things of that nature. Only do it if you find this video useful. Of course, I'm not trying to sell you anything within the video. So with that kind of like cheesy tagline being said, let's just get into the actual core information that will be really, really valuable. So first up, we have to call out your audience. Now this can be done in a number of different ways that I've done it and that I've seen many of the best ads do it. Now the reason why you want to do this is you only want to be showing your ads to the most desirable prospect. You don't want to be trying to create desire in prospects that will never buy your product or service. A really, really key point, because not only will this cut down your ad spend by reducing the wasted spend, but it will also allow you to create a more powerful message to your ideal prospects. Now, through my journey of collecting ads over the last 6 weeks, and I've collected I think almost 15 so far, and I've watched plenty more, but only a couple of weeks ago did I realize actually that I could find the URLs and keep these ads and shove them into a spreadsheet for you and I to refer to and learn from. Is that I found that the majority of businesses and marketers that do a wonderful job are doing this in one of two ways, and that is either asking a really provoking question or an emotional based question, or starting off with an emotional based kind of story. Now the important part of this is that the question or story really has to resonate with your prospects and no one else, and it should relate also to your big idea in and around your marketing, or your unique mechanism or USP, unique selling proposition, because that helps set the intention, and I'll talk about the intention in a moment, but it helps set the intention of your ad and why someone should watch your ad. So that the first few seconds, 5 seconds of your ad is really important. Call out your audience is one particular aspect, and the other one is that you're actually selling the person on why they should watch the ad. So you need to combine those two really, really quickly. Now, I'm going to show you an example of someone like Ty Lopez doing this and someone like Tyson Zenner doing this. Now these guys have ads that have been watched hundreds of millions of times, and in Tyson's world, I think somewhere around about 5 million times, almost 5 million. So we're talking huge numbers here. We're not talking, someone spending just a couple $100 or a couple of $1,000. These guys are spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of dollars on just these 2 ads here in order to help scale their marketing and their business, because they work, and they're using these 2 unique strategies. So just to cut in on myself there, I'm actually going to show you 3. So I'm going to show you 2 questions and 1 kind of story. So 1 question, thought-provoking, emotional-based question from Ty Lopez, a real prospect, hard-hitting question from Tyson Zenner, and a lady, Sophie, who is selling an Amazon book that no doubt goes into a webinar style funnel. She's starting off with a story. So I'm going to show these back to back, all in a row, and then we'll talk about them really, really quickly once we rejoin.
All right, you want to know the secret to getting a Ferrari or a Lamborghini like this? Drop out of college. Actually, I'm just kidding. It's going to give me a lot of trouble, I know, to say that, but I do find it interesting that when you look at the most successful people in the world, they dropped out of college, a lot of them.
Where is the best place to get leads online for your business? Is it YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram? Well, if you are a small business owner who needs more leads and prospects to talk to, I'm going to tell you here in about 2 minutes which one of these platforms I use to get well over 200 leads every single day online for my own business and how I do it. But
hey, big news! You're about to discover how I sold 131,404 units of a product on Amazon that cost me just $1 to buy, and I sold for $20. And I reveal everything that I've learned and everything that I do in my new book, Amazon Jetstream Income.
So really quickly, we saw 3 ads. They're all using the tactic that I just spoken about and more. So with Ty Lopez, asked the question on how do you get a Ferrari, etc., dropping out of college, really grabbing the attention of the person, and he is articulating he's going to show you how to do those things. He's also using the psychological tactic of presupposing something by actually having the Ferrari in the background. So it's proof that I know how to do this because I have the Ferrari, and I'm going to reveal how I got it to you. And then next we saw Tyson Zenner, how do you generate more leads? More specifically for small business. So he's really narrowing down and calling out the particular audience that he wants to hone in on. And he is selling the watch of his video by saying that he's going to reveal how he does that in the video. Then we saw a story by Sophie where she talks about how she started an Amazon business selling XYZ amount of products, buying them for $1 and selling them for $2. So it's a really, really quick story that if you're interested in that type of thing, you can resonate with really quickly and say, this is for me, I'm going to watch it, and I'm curious about the book that is going to reveal the secrets in order to do this for myself. So some really interesting and powerful tactics there. Being curiosity based helps a great deal because it ties people in to watching the video in its entirety. So people want to close the loops. They hate open-ended questions that have no answer, and they want to know the answer. So in TV we saw this done with the TV sitcom Lost, where they always ended on a cliffhanger, and to get the answer to what happened in the ending of that cliffhanger, you had to watch the next episode, and that's why that show was hugely successful with 1 million odd seasons. You also want to repulse the non-prospects, as I mentioned, because you do not want to be wasting spend trying to create desire in people that will never have desire. Again, I've said this many times before, you cannot create desire, you can only channel existing desire. Really powerful. So you cannot get me to buy a weight loss supplement yet, and hopefully not in the future, because I'm not overweight. That's a really cheesy way to articulate it, but you get the idea. So moving on, weird and unusual works because it's attention grabbing, but you want to be congruent with your brand, what your prospects think should come from you in terms of messaging and positioning. You do not want to create a disconnect, and I'll talk about this even further later on in this tutorial. So with the story, you want the prospects to think that that this is me. I've experienced this, or I want to experience this. So you really want to create that visceral connection with the story or question that you create. So you want to state the perceived intention of the ad, either directly or indirectly. In that is kind of probably not the best way to put it. So we saw with Tyson Zenner, how do you create more leads for small business, etc. He's being direct in the way of why you should watch the video, but not being direct he's being rather indirect of what the actual selling objective of the video is. Whereas we see with someone like Alex Becker, who's in the spreadsheet, he'll be far more direct. This is why you should watch the video, and this is why you should buy the product. And it's not so much as hard as that, as I just mentioned, but he's far more direct. Now, there's no right and wrong way to do it in terms of the principle. You can test both theories and see which one works for you. There may be one principle that works far better based upon your positioning and branding and so on and so forth. So it's important to take note of that type of thing. More importantly, you want to trigger emotion. Emotion is what people use to buy things. They do not use logic. They justify with logic. So in a weird and slightly awkward thing to talk about in terms of emotion, but we've all seen these ads like the World Vision ads of people in a part of the world that are really struggling with hardship day to day. Life is really hard. They're suffering drought and hydration issues and food issues, and we often see young children that are really like anemic and thin and suffering from severe malnutrition, and it really resonates with people on that visceral level because that works so much better than just stating facts. Now, it's a little bit unusual to talk about such a harsh thing in the context of this like marketing tutorial, but I think it's one of the best ways for people to understand how emotion can work. And they've tested using the statistical way that millions of people are going without water and food, etc. That does not resonate as much as seeing a sick child who is stick thin, struggling as much. So definitely try to invoke emotion. And people that are in the B2B world or selling something that's really kind of mundane and mechanical in nature, they will say that I can't invoke emotion. That is crap in a large sense of the time. The reason why you can't invoke emotion is that you do not know your prospect well enough. Now, you might not be able to hit as hard in such a visceral way as World Vision does, but you can pull on that emotional lever to really drive emotion in your ads, and you will get far more success. In the next stage of videos, or the next stage of the marketing videos that I've gone through, people move into this rapport or proof stage the majority of the time. Again, these are just rules of thumb, and this video is more along the lines of not a hardcore timeline script because I don't know your product or service. It's more along that you can follow this loose theme and pull out the psychological elements and tricks and persuasion tactics to implement in your video. So the next one is rapport and proof. Now, people buy from people. This is a concept that people find so hard to understand, but yet it's so powerful. People do not build rapport with objects. They do have emotional connections with objects, but nowhere near on the level as a human. So people buy from people, and people will not buy from people they do not like. So, never have the words been uttered. And I've mentioned this before that, Johnny Smith has a great service. He does it really well. Complete prick of a person. Like, hey, what an absolute prick. I can't stand him. That doesn't work. If someone thinks that someone's unlikable, their product or service is unlikable. The connection is there. They translate that poor quality of person to the poor quality of product. Now, it doesn't make complete sense, and I'll flip it to a real world example of, I had surgery about 11 weeks ago now, and I seen one of the best knee surgeons in the country. He's the president of his surgical specialty, and I've got two friends that are doctors that referred me, so I felt that I was in really good hands. on the flip side, I spoke to a friend of mine who's a nurse, and she had to have an operation that was very similar to mine, not the same, but very similar. Now she has knowledge of the medical field that I do not have, and I said to her, I said, did you use XYZ doctor? Did you go see him? She went, yeah, I went and seen him. I said, did you use him for your surgery? She went, no. I was like, why? I didn't like him. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, oh, I just didn't like him, so I went with someone else. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they're not, the best in their field. This guy is potentially the best in the country. So, the guy could be just a complete rude bastard, but you still use him, in my opinion, because you'll get the best result. So, that just kind of reinforces the principle that I'm talking about here. Next, I loosely mentioned story, but stories about your specific story that's emotional works particularly well. It can be a testimonial story based upon a customer or a third-party endorsement, so to speak, but it has to be relevant to the prospect. That's really, really important to understand. You've got to sell the want and not the need. The want of the prospect, not the need of the prospect, or the want or the need of what you want. Don't do that, definitely. You'll have no fun or no success or no money doing that. You want to sell the want of the prospect. So really fantastic example of this is Grammarly, and this ties into demonstration, as we can see a little bit lower down on this list, and I'll reference this also again when we talk about analogies and metaphor, but we'll cut to this really quick Grammarly ad, and I'll just show you a couple of seconds, and we'll see testimonials that are from actors, funny enough, and I only just noticed this recently watching this video for the third and fourth time. Actors portrayal or something says down the bottom, and you'll notice that now that I've mentioned it, but it's a really good representation of demonstration, story, and third-party credibility. So let's watch.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly.
I write pretty much all day, every day, and Grammarly makes my writing better.
As a student, I like that it's free.
It actually is correcting everything as I'm writing it.
Grammar errors, spelling errors, and even helps me find the right words to use so I can say what I want to say.
It catches all those embarrassing little mistakes before I hit send.
So in that ad, we saw testimonials from actors or customers, and they shared how they use Grammarly. We also saw demonstration, which I'll talk about in a few moments' time. So that's just one way to articulate your product or service in a really unique way, combining it with many different psychological and persuasion tricks in order to create a fantastic video. Now that video has been watched over 450 million times for good reason, and it's only 60 seconds long, and I urge you to watch it a few times. Now the next one is having someone who is a perceived authority to introduce you. Someone who does this fantastically well is Tony Robbins. And the reason why this works so well is you can say how good you are, and everyone just thinks, what a prick, like, who talks about themselves like that, and it's completely just forgotten about. But someone who is a perceived authority to your prospect introduces you, you'll have a fantastic response. So if I got, and I'll talk about the perception of celebrities in a few moments, but so I won't harp on this too much longer. But what I'll do now is show you an example of Tony Robbins using introduction to better frame what he's about to say to his audience. This gives him more persuasion power. It makes it easier to overcome beliefs and ideas that are pre-existing, that are incorrect in the prospects, in order for them to buy his product. So, without any further ado, let's watch.
I've always been fascinated by that force that shapes human beings. Who am I and what am I here to give?
You are a catalyst for getting other people to change the way they think about themselves.
As painful as this is, human beings can change one of two ways. They can change because there's an opportunity, they just decide to go make it happen, or they do it because they're at a threshold.
I was looking at the list of people that you have helped. Bill Clinton, Princess Diana, Mikhail Gorbachev, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Quincy Jones.
Tony Robbins is a master of...
So in that video of Tony Robbins, we saw a heap of different things. We saw so much authority and credibility coming from third parties. We heard Oprah Winfrey speak. We saw people engaging with him. We saw an interview with Piers Morgan, and a whole list of people that have trusted him to help them. Mother Teresa, Gorbachev, Bill Clinton, etc. Princess Diana. These are some of the world's most recognized and in some cases the world's most powerful people, or were some of the world's most powerful people. So this is something that you can use within your own marketing in videos and so forth. Small caveat to this is that if you're speaking at a conference or in front of any group of people, you want to control the introduction. It's hugely important. It is the most powerful aspect of your entire presentation and will dictate the biggest impact upon your success as a speaker, whether it's selling something or just having influence on the group in order to better educate them. And I learned this principle from Dan Kennedy, and he's spoken from the platform thousands of times with some of the world's biggest and best and well-known speakers: Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Andy Harrington, so on and so forth. And he says you have to control the introduction. You tell the person who's introducing you exactly what to say and how to say it, or you have an introduction video like Tony Robbins has in this case. Andy Harrington uses this exact same tactic. When he speaks from the platform, he has an introduction-based video because he does not trust the introduction to someone he doesn't know or who hasn't introduced him before. So just a small side note that you might find really valuable. So moving through to indirect proof, tons of people use this in various different ways in forms of like presupposition or proof and credibility by association and things of that nature. So with Ty Lopez, for instance, he'll say that he'll start with a thought-provoking question and then lead on to, just thought I'd do this around my house. People always asking, to have a look at my home, so I thought I'd do like a crib-style video. He's doing that because his home is a mansion, and it reaffirms that he knows what he's talking about, because if he didn't, he wouldn't have that home or that Ferrari. On the flip side, by association, indirect, someone like Tony Robbins will say, when I worked with Oprah Winfrey, or when I worked with Andre Agassi, something like that, name drop, it reinforces he knows what he's talking about, and other people of high status trust him. So that's another really powerful tactic to use. Moving through to demonstration. Demonstration is really, really powerful, and I talk about this in multiple different ways throughout the video. But if you can show people how your product or service works, it works so much better, so much better. One of the great examples, I wish I could find a video of this, but unfortunately it was a long time ago. So back in 1853, Elijah Otis invented the elevator. Now, buildings used to be XYZ tall because that was the threshold people were willing to walk up. Now, so he created the elevator, which was an absolute death trap in the eyes of the public. A little box that the cable could break and everyone would fall to their death. How reliable was it? No one knew. It was a completely foreign concept. So what he did, he went to Crystal Palace Center or something like that in New York and erected a platform that was just like how an elevator would be installed. Now, he put himself in it, and I think it was either open or glass in some way, shape or form, and he went up to the top of this like elevator kind of contraption platform, and he cut the cable, and the elevator didn't fall to its death. He survived, and that proof and demonstration was what convinced the public that elevators were the way to go, and it changed. It had a heavy influence on the world and buildings and architecture and so on and so forth. So demonstration is really, really powerful. Before and afters are pretty self-explanatory. So, these can be done in demonstration in many different ways. Before and after, weight loss, etc., muscle stuff, making things easier or harder in terms of the way that people do their work. Grammarly was using that practice. I've got an options trading video that I'll show you right now that uses charts and graphs, which is also just below this this segment here, and it also using the rule of comparison, showing how you used to do it to how you do it now. So that's loosely similar to before and after. So let's have a look at this option trading video.
Normally a trader would pull up a chart and start out by drawing a trend line. Then they'd find their low price and draw out a Fibonacci. And of course, we'd end up trading this one from green to green. And that's something you'll learn how to do. But with Smart Trader and the smart tools built in, it does all the work for you. If you want to draw a perfect trend line, click on the Smart Trend Line tool, and it's drawn for you. To draw a Fibonacci, click on the Smart Fibonacci tool, and with one click, it's drawn for you. Not just the one that's happened, but the one that's happening. and with 100% accuracy.
So in that real quick video, we saw a demonstration. We saw kind of like loosely like before and after, but like a comparison of the way to do things, on how people used to do things and how they can do things, and so on and so forth, and obviously charts and graphs. But the charts and graphs weren't really suggesting any form of proof or credibility. You know, charts and graphs are pretty easy to understand, and we'll see a really cool instance of charts and graphs when we talk about P90X and their $400 million infomercial. So comparison was spoken about. Moving through to scientific studies in your own research. Scientific studies are really third-party credibility more often than not, because the company didn't do the research themselves. But so you'll see this often with like supplements and things of that nature. You know, Q-enzyme 10 or Q10 or whatever the damn thing's called was founded by a Nobel Prize winner. So he had nothing to do with any of the Q10 kind of supplement companies, but they'll often reference that because Nobel Prize, it must be good. Well, it might be true, it might not be true. It has, you know, effective things on energy production and people recovering from heart issues and so on and so forth. But that's how you can use scientific studies in indirect ways. Your own research, you know, Tony Robbins will mention this in videos in the way that, you know, it's been my passion and mission over my life to research and uncover what drives the most successful people. It's not really research, but it's a powerful statement. So it's a really unusual and a weird way to talk about that kind of thing. So moving on to some more rapport building and proof building elements that you can include in your video scripts. The first one being reason why. Now, reason why is really important because it punches up the persuasive power of any assertion that you make, any statement, feature or benefit or so on. Now, the reason why is often forgotten about when someone makes a statement or a benefit or things of that nature, but it matters so much in terms of the persuasive value that you convey to your prospect. So in the book Influenced by Robert Cialdini, who is a fantastic academic gentleman, and I highly urge you to read the book Persuasion and Influenced by Robert Cialdini. Now, in the book Influence, he ran an experiment with a photocopying machine where people were lining up to create photocopies of whatever. Now, a person tries to cut the line and using the word because and a really generic reason. Can I push in because I need to make copies, or I need to push in because and make copies, it's an emergency or something along those lines. Now, the emergency is somewhat of a valid reason or a perceived valid reason, but because I need to make copies is not really. Everyone's there to make copies. The funny part is that people were compliant in the order of, if my memory serves me right, somewhere between 85 and 90 odd % for both. Now, because I need to make copies was still a valid reason in the eye of the person who was lining up. So any reason why seems to have tremendous value. But if you can make your reason why arguments logical and valid, they become even more persuasive. So another example of this is that my business partner and I, we were moving our e-commerce operations. We have machines for manufacturing and things of that nature. We were moving them to a new location because we'd outgrown, and we wanted to run a moving sale because we didn't want to move all the stock. And so if we sold a lot of the stock, we wouldn't have to move it. So what we did, we had a moving sale. And the funny thing about the moving sale was it ran for 6 weeks. And my business partner was going, we moved like 5-6 weeks ago. When's this going to stop us? And I said, well, it'll stop when that persuasive message stops having pulling power. And that's just another example that if I had said just 20% off or some generic discount, it would not have worked anywhere near as well as something that has a reason why behind it. So moving through to specialization. Now, specialization can be seen in many different ways, and more often or not, it's more down to the fact of niching down. And so we see this in various different ways of accountants that specialize in a particular industry or consultants that consult in a particular industry. They're perceived as being able to complete better work in that particular field or industry, or for that particular prospective field. Now, with that being said, and a really good demonstration of this is the sunglasses, blue blocker sunglasses, which feature in the movie The Hangover with the lunatic with the beard and the leader of the wolf pack kind of thing. Now he has blue blocker sunglasses, and the man behind blue blocker sunglasses is Joseph Sugarman, a fantastic marketer in and of his own right, and a fantastic copywriter. And I urge you to read his book. Read his books. He has a couple of books out there, and they're all fantastic. Now he created the first, I think they're one of the first blue light blocking sunglasses, and they also had this ability to create more light for the person wearing them in low level light. So it was a fantastic product for pilots. You would think it's common sense. Pilots are often flying at dusk and dawn, and obviously visibility will help a lot. And they're often looking into the sun, and it could be quite difficult for them to get away from the sun. He had trouble selling them to pilots until he made a product range specifically for pilots that was, I think, like 1.5 times the normal retail price or twice the normal retail price. It's not when he doubled the price and made it look more specific to pilots that they sold the pilots like crazy, like hotcakes. So moving through to unique mechanism. The unique mechanism or unique selling proposition, unique value proposition, I like to call it a unique mechanism. It just works better in my mind for whatever reason, is that unique reason why your product or service is better than any of your competitors, and it helps achieve fantastic results for your ideal prospects. So you'll see a bunch of these in many pieces of marketing communication, video, written sales letters, so on and so forth. One that I found really interesting was P90X, which is a workout program that's sold by DVDs. Yeah, DVDs, wasn't quite videotapes, I don't think. And they tested 12 or 13 different unique mechanisms before they hit the mark with the one that I'm going to show you an example of in just a few moments. And it worked fantastically well in the order of generating over $400 million in sales. So let's have a look at their unique mechanism and how they use graphs a graph that I referenced earlier in the video to help portray the demonstration of how this unique mechanism can help achieve better results for their prospects.
Muscle confusion. Let's talk about that. This graph we spent a lot of money on shows you how the effectiveness of any workout diminishes over time, leading to a fitness barrier called the plateau effect, which anyone with a gym membership will tell you sucks. P90X can obliterate that effect by using the advanced training science of muscle confusion. Over the course of 90 days, as your body changes, P90X changes right along with you, introducing new moves and routines so that your body never has time to adapt, leading to faster results and greater fat loss. It's 90 days.
So just how good is that little piece of marketing from P90X? We see so many different things in terms of like demonstration. We see like a story of a person and their multiple photos of them progressing in terms of their body composition, going from a little bit overweight and a poor body composition to a lot leaner and more muscular version. We see how this program via a graph and demonstration in some ways, breaking through like the plateau effect. So it really takes a person through the journey of how this actually works and explains why it works. So many different types of proof elements in this. And a small little fun part is that at the start they say we spent a fortune creating this graph. Probably didn't spend too much creating the graph. They probably spent an absolute crap load of money, like millions of dollars, testing to get to that end unique mechanism. So a little bit of maybe brain theory there, but yeah, you get the idea. So moving through to certifications are really important because you need to have credibility. And the prospect needs to see you as having credibility. So licenses, qualifications, things of that nature are really, really important. And you're only as kind of trusted or qualified as the perception of you is portrayed to your prospects. So that's really, really important. Moving through to testimonials, these are quite obvious. We saw them in the Grammarly video, and you'll see them in multiple different types of videos, etc. Media exposure, again, is very much similar to certification. So articulating that you're being featured in the Sydney Morning Herald if you're in Australia, the New York Times in the States, etc. Depending upon the key media exposure outlets in your country. But there's also specific types of media so that only your prospects will follow. So it could be like such if you're selling some like running shoes. It could be some form of like Runner's World magazine or something like that. So media exposure doesn't have to be generic in terms of you want the most popular, most known form of media exposure. It can often be something that is very, very important in the eyes of your prospects. So this kind of ties into the next one, being perceived celebrity endorsements. So for instance, I could be, if I was speaking at a conference and I was introduced by Brad Pitt, you know, that's pretty good. Like, I mean, because he's an A-lister. But someone that might be better, if I'm especially talking to marketers, would be someone like Jay Abraham. The gentleman's been around for 1,000 years, a world-renowned like marketing guru, and I mean that in the true word, not the bullshit kind of YouTube sense. You know, this guy's, he not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk. And people in my world specifically, in the marketing world, know Jay Abraham, and he's very highly respected. So an introduction from him would probably be better than Brad Pitt. So metaphor and analogy is something that helps an understanding of an element of your product or service, because understanding is persuasion. People, if someone can't understand something, they will probably, well, it's almost certain that they will not purchase, and you know that's quite obvious. So using different metaphors and analogies can be really, really important. And what I want to show you is just one really 5-second clip that in the Grammarly video, where the lady compares, or kind of like uses the analogy that Grammarly is very similar to a personal proofreader. So let's have a look at that.
It's like having your own personal proofreader for free.
Download Grammarly for free.
So there we saw like a really cool way that Grammarly uses the use of metaphor to help articulate what their product actually does for you as a prospect. Again, or not again actually, but handling objections is really, really important, because depending upon where your prospect is in the journey of buying your product and becoming educated in and around your product and service, handling objections is important. And so if we were to use the example of the BizOp or business opportunity, people selling the drop shipping stuff and for lack of a better way, the Amazon kind of stuff, and you know, people that want to start their own business think that it might cost a lot of money, so they need a lot of capital to get started, they need a lot of experience to get started. So if you were in that world, you'd want to handle those 2 objections plus probably a handful more. And there's different ways to handle those objections, and all the other tactics that I've spoken before this part of handling objections can be used to handle objections. So you can have testimonials that answer your objections, third-party endorsements, your unique mechanism might handle objections, etc., etc. So you know that's important, because objections are more than often not one of the biggest downfalls of why you will not get the prospect to do the desired action that you want that you want for them to complete. So when it comes to the style of your videos, here's a few key points that I've learnt and also uncovered from watching tons of ads. Is you want to stay congruent with your brand, you as a person if you're the face of the business, and you also want to be received properly in the eyes of your prospects and what they expect from you, not only from your brand but also the industry as a whole. So if you were to rock up looking as if you're homeless, but you were a doctor saying that you were going to treat people, that's not what people want to say, not what people want to see. So that's really important. And so one of the best points of that is that you'll see Ty Lopez and Alex Becker, etc., using ads featuring a Lamborghini. Now, another gentleman called Graham Stephan ran an experiment where he teaches people about real estate and how to manage money, and he's quite a frugal gentleman himself, which I resonate with, because I believe that a penny saved is a penny earned, and I think that's important, because people are more often not in business young enough to screw everything up. So don't do dumb stuff with money, because I've seen so many people lose it. I've done dumb stuff with money and I've had to start from scratch, and I don't want to do that again. So, but Graham Stephan, moving on to Graham Stephan, he ran a video ad to promote a real estate course, and he used a Lamborghini, and it went woeful. You got hate comments, you got people unsubscribing saying this is not the reason why they follow him, etc. Then he went back and made 2 videos that were more congruent to what he normally shows and how he normally represents himself, and it works so much better. Got a better ROI, no hate comments, etc. And if you want to look at that video that he did, just go to YouTube and type in Graham Stephan Lamborghini, and I'm sure it's the first ad that, or not ad, but the first video that pops up. Now, I also urge people to consider low production because it's more relatable, authentic. We see Alex Becker shooting things in his garage, Ty Lopez using selfie sticks, etc. Dan Graziosi will often use a selfie stick and film in his backyard. Tons of people like that, and it really is more relatable and authentic, and I find that that's really, really important. And the time to go for higher production is if your audience expects that or your brand dictates that. So I think that's an important distinction that you need to make for yourself, obviously, because I don't know you and what business that you're in, but do not be afraid of going low production, in my opinion. Next, do not read from a script. I know that might be uncomfortable. Use a teleprompter. I've never used one. There are apps that you can install on an iPad or an Android tablet, or even your phone, I think, that will act as a teleprompter, which will help a lot. But I think that that not using like a teleprompter or a script and reading verbatim makes your message more relatable, more authentic. I don't use one. If you want something funny, is that I actually use these slides for as much your purpose as it is for me. It's my kind of teleprompter / script. It just keeps me on track and tells me what I need to talk about next. And as I've mentioned before, people buy from people, and I've spoken about this, and I will speak about it in future videos because it's just so true that people build rapport with you, likability, so on and so forth, and they can feel that trust that comes through you, through the camera, and hits the prospect, and then therefore have inherent trust in your product or service. You also only want to have just one theme or one objective. Do not try and sell multiple services or product in the one video, and don't have multiple objectives, asking people for a phone call, a consultation, an email opt-in, sign up to a webinar. Just one objective. You want the person just to do one thing. Really, really important. If you offer more, people will have trouble making the distinction which one's right and which one's wrong, or which one's more right. People fall into the choice paradox and psychological traps like that. So I urge you just to have one theme and one objective. So moving through to the close now, really important, because this is where the money's made. So you want to have an irresistible offer. You want your prospect to think that, hey, this is almost too good to be true. Like literally, that's what you want. And how you frame that is really important. What the actual offer is really important. And if you can't think of a good enough irresistible offer, the problem is not that your product is probably not good enough or your service, it's that you just do not know your prospect good enough. So, we will see things like ClickFunnels, for example, fantastic piece of marketing that Russell Brunson developed, because essentially ClickFunnels is nothing all that special in the way of, there's plenty of funnel building kind of software around, but he kind of pitches it and frames ClickFunnels as this magical way to make money, and does a fantastic job of that. And so, often the perception of an offer is more important than the actual offer, and that's one of the essence of marketing. Don't forget to tell people how to accept the offer, and I'm going to show you this with a Ty Lopez video in just a few moments, because I'm going to bundle a few of these aspects in the one example, because Ty ties in a whole bunch of different psychological ninja tactics into just a really 20-second close. So tell people how to accept the offer, lead people, tell them exactly what to do. People are often forgetful, and also don't forget at the end of your video to leave about 5 seconds in order to allow people the time to complete the action, to click the certain link or whatever that is, and I'll show you an example of that even later on in the video. Don't forget to explain the offer, the value and expectations. We'll see this with Ty as well, but more often than not, I see people on their website asking for a free consultation. Now, what's the free consultation? Is it John D. Rockefeller's father, the snake oil salesman, is going to rock up and try and flog some people, some kind of hawky-balky kind of crap product? Or is there some value to the consultation? You need to have value associated with the call to action, really important. The other one that really irritates the crap out of me is sign up to my newsletter. Oh, please, like, how friggin' ridiculous. Why would I want to sign up to your newsletter? What is the value of that? So maybe if you were, I'll use something on the fly, sign up to my monthly Google Ads Academy. This isn't real, I'm just winging it here, but sign up to my monthly Google Ads Academy. Each and every month I release one new video that shows you how to optimize your Google Ads performance, etc. That's so much better and so much more powerful than sign up to my damn newsletter. So, because there's value behind it. So that's the rule of value and expectations. And I've spoken about have a delay. We'll see that. And get people to group themselves and ascend them to action. So with Tai Lopez, we'll see people, he'll group people as optimists and pessimists. And he will say, one group to do one thing, one group to do the other. So in this video that I'm going to show you, Tai tells people how to accept the offer, value and expectations, and it's an irresistible offer to his prospects. So let's have a look.
And I want to share that with you today. 3 practical things. Just click this video, it'll take you to my website. It's completely free. You can watch the video there, and I record. It's just in my garage like this. It's not super professional, so don't expect too much. But it is hard hitting it. It does have the ability to change your life. Now, do not click this if you're a cynic or a pessimist. There's a lot of those in the world. If you're watching this far, you're probably not. You're probably an optimist. Like one of my favorite books, Conrad Hilton, the billionaire, he said what changed his life when he was living in the Depression was reading a book by Helen Keller when he was age 15. She said optimist. So I want to share with you 3 practical things that you can do today, no matter where you live, no matter how bad things might be, where you can begin to revolutionize your life. Find the good life, health, wealth, love, and happiness. So click this video and I'll see you over on my...
So we just saw a great example of Tai setting expectations. This is a video, most likely going to be shot in my garage. Don't expect anything like high production kind of stuff. We also seen him explain the value of it. We also seen him use some other psychological tactics, such as he's trying to change the belief of the prospect that's watching the ad. And the way he does that is he says that Conrad Hilton and Keller, the authors and the billionaire, etc., believe in being an optimist and so on, and that's moving the prospect into a new belief endorsed by these huge perceived celebrities and actual obviously celebrities as well. So that's a really interesting take on how Tai Lopez closes his videos. And the last 3, scarcity, incentive, social proof, are pretty obvious what they are. Scarcity, stocks running out. Moving sale, we'll be moving soon, so the sale will end. Things of that nature. Incentives the same. Incentive can be multiple different things, bonuses, things of that nature. I'm not going to talk about these too much because this video is getting pretty long, and you guys will know this stuff. Everyone's seen it, but wait, there's more. You get this extra knife with this, vacuum cleaner kind of thing. So social proof is the exact same. We've spoken about this in multiple different ways. Third parties, perceived as celebrities, testimonials, things of that nature, the amount of people that have purchased something or done business with you, etc. Now, just some miscellaneous stuff that I've used and I've seen used time and time again with really successful ads is you want to lead people to your conclusion and don't force your beliefs or ideas upon them. Allow people to conclude them and accept them within themselves using well-crafted scripts and linguistic techniques. So an example for that would be, there's a fantastic story using analogy as well, and I referenced this earlier, analogy. So there's a story that's probably not true, but nonetheless it serves a fantastic point, is a patient goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, my wife's pregnant and you gave me a vasectomy 20 years ago. What's the deal?" Now, to interject, the doctor could really buck up against this patient, and they'll get into an argument, and it'll be he said, she said kind of crap, and it'll be just difficult. And I think most people can understand if the doctor does that, it's going to be in a bit of a spot of bother. But the doctor tackles this in a really nice and tasteful way. He says, you know, Mr. Patient, I went hunting on the weekend. He said, I packed all my stuff up, and as I walked out, I picked up my umbrella and off we went. And he says, and you know, we're about 5 hours into the woods, and we spot a grizzly bear, and he starts charging toward me. And I pull out my umbrella, I point it at the bear, and I shoot the bear, and I kill the bear, and I save my life. And the patient goes, rubbish. That's absolutely complete rubbish. He goes, you couldn't have shot the bear, someone else shot the bear. And the doctor goes, exactly. Same thing applies to you. Infers that his wife's been cheating on him, kind of thing. So I think it's a really cool way for the prospect to accept the notion and idea of what the doctor wants the patient to accept, and they conclude that themselves. So I kind of find that cool. And if you can use that kind of thing within your own marketing, it's far better. So the next point is don't say it if you can show it. So you could say that my vacuum has the best suction in the world. A complete crap, no one cares, because it's just a completely useless statement in many ways, because it needs a reason why, it needs proof. So what many people will do in the infomercial world, they will show a vacuum sucking up 15 billiard balls, or a vacuum kind of thing. My vacuum blew up a couple of years ago, and I went in the rabbit hole of learning about vacuums. What's the most important part? The suction, airflow, agitation, etc. I know more about vacuums than I ever really wanted to. But when people see the demonstration, it's hugely important because they get to see it in action. Seeing is believing. Now, what is often not said within those infomercials is that the vacuum company creates 2 or 3 other vacuums, and they're crap vacuums to make this champion vacuum look fantastic. We've all seen this before, but no one ever knows what these other 2 or 3 vacuums are and what kind of brand they are. Often they're just made by their own vacuum company to make the other one look really, really good. Again, that's like comparison. We spoke about comparison earlier. Again, that's that same principle again. Next, you really do want to agitate the problem, and people that are great copywriters do this fantastically well. Dan Kennedy you really want to piss off the prospect as much as possible, create an enemy for them, really show them how their life is really difficult because of XYZ. Agitate the problem because it invokes emotion, which is the next point. And carrying on from that, we see exaggeration. Exaggeration helps invoke more emotion and agitate the problem. We see cheesy exaggeration methods within the infomercials, but infomercials are often spending anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 per second. These guys know what works. So again, I just referenced the vacuums and bowling balls and stuff like that. We've already spoken about perceived authority a fair bit, or the perception of authority. We see it with Tony Robbins and how to induce this. And so I'm not going to touch upon this all too much right here, but go back, and if you skipped forward and look at the proof and rapport building sections of this video to see how you can enhance the perception of your authority to help persuade your prospective clients. I always like to think with my marketing and my scripts and stuff like that is, what does my audience need to hear and understand in order to complete the objective that I want them to complete? I find that a really powerful question for me, because it allows me to iron out in bullet points, kind of like a flowchart way of what they need to know and how I can flow through that in order to provide it to them. And more often than not, recording sales calls is a fantastic way to do this. And then kind of like using like an engram, you can't really do this, but engrams are, well, I'm not going to talk about them, but they, I'm going to have to talk about them now because I brought it up, but they capture, the key pieces of information in a whole heap of set of data. So in Google Ads, we use this to see what particular words are common in terms of conversions and things of that nature. So push that to one side, is that you want to really narrow down on the logical argument that you need to provide your prospects in order for them to make the decision to buy. I find that a really powerful way for me to wrap my head around the marketing message I need to create for whatever I'm doing. Again, you want to really think about how will people think and feel about what you say. So Bill Guthrie and Greg Renker talk about this is that really everything matters in terms of the environment, what's around you in the video, and how you say things and what you say. So when you call, not if you call, is more important, because it's future pacing. It's saying that, you know, we are expecting your call. Another line that's been tremendously successful in infomercials is, if the lines are busy when you call, please stay on the line. It's, you know, presupposing that tons of people will be calling and that it's so popular. This product or service is so popular. So some really interesting ways to think about what are you saying and what is the both direct and indirect meaning behind it. One of the fantastic things about video marketing is it can be sequential. Marketing is often like marriage, and that the first point of contact, you can't ask for marriage and you probably can't ask for a sale. But after 2 or 3 pieces of communication, the odds of you becoming married, or, you know, let's say dates, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dates, after 5 or 6 dates, probably too early to start asking for marriage, but your chances are far higher statistically. I don't know, there probably aren't statistics around it, but it's probably logical to think that yes, you have more chance. The same thing applies with video. So people that watch, let's say 50, 75%, 95% more of your videos, etc., or on YouTube, if they watch your video, you can retarget them to build a logical sales argument in. So if you refer back to the question I just spoke about, is what does your audience need to hear and what do they need to see, etc., to complete your objective, you can sequentially roll this out. And this is a fantastic way to really narrow down on your key prospects and give them the information that they need to complete your objectives. Moving through, you need to test 3 ads. Like this is just really, really important. And I've seen tons of Alex Becker ads, and you'll see a couple of variations. Sophie is selling the Amazon. I've got 2 of her ads, etc. Some of your ads are going to stink. Like some of my ads have tanked, and I will continue to make tanked ads. Like that's just the way that this world is, and it's fantastic because you learn more. So the likelihood of you hitting future winners is far better because of your testing and failing. You'll learn so much more, and your winners will be better in the future. So I recommend testing 3 ads using 3 different environments, 3 different scripts, etc. You can test multiple offers. You can frame the offers in different ways. So it doesn't have to be exactly if let's just say a product, it doesn't have to be 3 different product offers, but you can talk about it in 3 different ways, etc. Some more stuff, one of the last things is add subtitles. I'm seeing this more and more readily happening with videos now, especially on Facebook, and even happening more and more on YouTube, is that adding subtitles, making it easier for people to comprehend what you're saying, be it whether they have the sound on or off. And as we said, understanding is persuasion. So, you know, when we were little kids, and the teacher, you know, when we're 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever, would read to us and we would follow along. It was fantastic, enjoyable experience and stuff like that. You learned to read. It's somewhat similar. You had a better understanding when the teacher did that, or your mum and dad did that. Now, if you really did find this video helpful and you think that it's going to help your marketing now and in the future, smash that subscribe button, because I'm releasing content like this on a weekly basis, helping business owners and marketers improve their marketing, generate more leads, more sales, etc. Also, don't forget to smash that like button. It really does help me, and I really do appreciate it. It helps me stay motivated because I'm naturally introverted, and it's kind of like a nice, weird pat on the back. And sometimes these videos aren't as easy as they maybe appear to be in order to make. So, and lastly, marketing is tricky. There's many different facets and aspects to it, and there's a lot of depth to get this right. And if you want to have a chat about your marketing, completely free, no obligation, I'm not going to try and sell you anything like that. I feel like that hopefully I come across as that type of person. All you have to do is whip over to my website at brenhamel.com, click the contact button, fill in the form. You and I can have a chat. I can have a little 15-minute conversation with you, gain some context about your business and your products and services, etc. I then can get, if you like, access to your marketing campaigns, Google Ads, Facebook, YouTube ads, etc. I can rip through them, pull them apart, show you what's wrong, what's right, and how you can improve them in order to generate more sales and more business for you. That's completely free, no obligation, of course. So with all this being said, I hope you found the video fantastic, and I look forward to presenting the next video to you. So until then, take care, and bye-bye.